own prisons and helping them, giving them cars. Basically, my rest of my life, that's what I want to do, just help other people. That's about it.
So Roger, what state were you in?
I live in Indianapolis, but they sent me to Ashland, Kentucky.
Okay.
A federal prison camp. So basically, my help other people. Pardon?
I get that, Roger. And Roger is helping a lot of other people. He's, his 2 books, Guilty Until Proven Innocent. And then he has another book also, which I have right here.
Brilliant Minds in Captivity.
Brilliant Minds in Captivity. Yes, you can buy both of those, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. But yeah, so he thinks outside the box, which is a very good thing that I love. It's not all things you've heard and done before. It's kind of new, so that's kind of cool.
Well,
Okay,
one other thing that we're talking about, within the concert business. So we are going to put on concerts, like we talked to DJ earlier, and we're going to do a virtual concert, and a lot of the concert, the money is going to go help the cause. So
yes, it's amazing. Okay, so I've had a request from Taxpayers for Change to speak. So can you unmute yourself?
Hi, how are you? I'm sorry, I have this background drop. Hi guys, how's everyone?
Well,
Yeah, great, thank you.
How's everyone? I'm sorry, it's looking kind of little shady, but that's the technical difficulties. Hi, I'm Joanna Flava Collins. I'm with Taxpayers for Change and Jobs for Felons in USA. I'm trying to get straight here. I'm a reentry employment specialist, but I'm also better known by inmates and felons as the Harriet Tubman of inmates, felons, and I call myself the Harriet Tubman of taxpayers, and I like to tell you guys why.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. First of all, there's no such thing as a felon. Felony is adjudication. Anyone is taxpayer. You're a citizen. So that's the number one thing. We're going to stop calling people citizens felons. You're not a formerly incarcerated citizen. You're not a returning citizen. You are a taxpayer. There's no need for second chances. It's time served. As I listen to people, the one thing I never hear is how taxpayers have never identified that you are allowing political employees to discriminate and disregard your rights, and that is all rights, by being a taxpayer. So what I'm introducing is something that has been done in recent history. Homosexuals did it. They finally stopped begging employees, 1 president, 50 governors, senators, representatives, congressmen, mayors, police, supervisors of prison, directors. They're all employees. Yet we sit here begging them, trying to come up with solutions. Well, here's a solution. Stop begging and stop pleading and stop petitioning. And the one major thing I can offer you is stop allowing our employees to pardon themselves. Why would we do day for day and allow an employee a get out of jail free card? So I'm bringing you guys a new level of reality here, because I know you've never heard anything like this before. I see some of your eyebrows going up and your eyes getting wide. Well, guess what? As you are the best resources of our society, we are the 21st century civil rights movement activists, and we are in charge of our government. So I'm calling for time served. I'm calling for all citizen government jobs return. Do you know we've allowed our employees to take away our city, state, county, federal government jobs? Do you know we've allowed our employees to discriminate? Now you can't. I'm in Florida. So here's the biggest political Ponzi scam hoax they've just pulled. we're allowing them to deny felons, taxpayer, the right to vote. Well, why are you paying taxes? So we're not going to sit back and allow this to continue. We're not going to keep going for the same old, and keep saying no justice, no peace. It's simply put, as you see by my backdrop, that I have, right? Because every single one of them is an employee. So I want you guys to understand that when you go to bed tonight, thank God for the right that we are free. And it's time to be free at last. And I want you to go forward with knowing this. Every single one of you guys, stop begging, pleading, and petitioning. City employees, county employees, federal government employees, they're just that. We're the government. We don't have to beg them. We should no longer. Why would we ask our employees for what we should already have obtained? Because people have not identified that. We have organizations out here perpetrating frauds, acting like they're for felons. Well, if you're not for explaining that you're the boss, that felons are the boss, then you're keeping that information from them. Anything else is less than, and we should not accept it. Any form of discrimination. So I'm calling for stop begging for reparations and understand it's compensation. So many people, taxpayers, have been wrongfully terminated because of their felon conviction. Why would we hire them, elect them, allow them, politicians, ordinary citizens, to get a job, to turn around and deny us rights, housing, vote? So can I get a solidarity? Is anybody down with the real? Can you say no equals no election, no re-election? When they say no, they got to go.
You're right. Awesome. Well said.
I agree.
So I'm asking us to do the million. Thank you. I'm asking us to do the million taxpayer felon march to end all of this, to get all our rights restored, to get everything equalized. Our justice system, we don't have to beg them to repeal. Remember, we're hiring them to manage what we choose to allow them to oversee. So we don't have to beg for 3 strikes you're out, mandatory minimum, and 1020 life to be repealed. That's their job, to do what we tell them to do. We're the ones sitting up here allowing this insanity to continue. If you know better, then you should do better. So stop marching, stop petitioning, and stop complaining, and stop looking for solution and answers, and simply change and fire, and let them know that they're the employee and we're not going to allow them to discriminate against us anymore. And when we tell them what to do, they are going to do it like any other employee does, or you're not going to get the job or keep the job. I don't know why people aren't catching on to this, but our rights, our employment, our housing, we can obtain this and correct this in the next couple of years. We have to be diligent and stop looking for answers from employees and stay on top of them and have oversight committees. And then we will see change, reform, and have legislative reform. And I've left my number. I hope everyone or someone will contact me. And I hope this information has been empowering. Please give me your opinion.
I want to say one thing. You know, I've watched several videos lately. And I was on a podcast not long ago with the Color of Change organization. It's very important to teach our youth. I think that is where a great deal of this stems from, this unfairness, inequality, all that, because we're not working with our children. We're not teaching our children. We need to teach our children. And sometimes the best way to teach them is by saying nothing, but leading by example. But I don't think anyone, you're right. We shouldn't have to beg for something that is clearly right to be done. So I appreciate you being on here. Thank you for your comments. And that makes me want to hear from Governor Henderson. Governor,
Hi, Sandy.
what's your take? Hey.
Well, first of all, I just want to, I applaud the panel here that's especially, come forward to talk about their experiences. It's not easy, because I think society wants to give you the thought that when you've done something that they've deemed to be, I guess, a crime, or as the young lady said before, the whole thing about being a felon. I think the biggest part about the system is that it's the label that the system tries to give the person that's involved in it, and I think that's the major concern. I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum here, because I am that one that sat, in many courtrooms. I started my career as a police officer, became a detective, and spent the last part of my career in the prosecutor's office. And so I've seen people come before the system to, they didn't have any support. So, they were encouraged to, to take plea bargains, to, to enter that system, and not understanding that, once you enter that system, there's really no such thing as doing your time, because what happens with the system is that they give you that permanent label. And so once you get that permanent label, it's up to individuals that are on the panel to fight their way out of that label. And the problem is that most people don't understand how to fight out of that label. They think that once they get that label, then the system, they have no right to get away from that label. And that's kind of what the system does. I've seen people get out. You talk about affordable housing. I've seen people that get out of the system that have family members that live in assisted housing, but they can't even go back there because they're, the system says if you have a certain conviction that you can't even go back and live in some of those housings that you have your support source at. So, where are those people to go? So it's like they give you this, this bus ticket and this whatever that they give you to, once you're out, and then it's like you've got to fend for yourself. So, I spent a total of 20 years working in the justice system. I started in the prison system, and so I started there for a reason, because I wanted to see the worst case scenario as to what can happen to an individual once they go into the system. And I can tell you, being there, I was sick to my stomach, because what happens is that I could see some of the people there knowing that they never got a fair chance. And so after doing 5 years, I decided, hey, let me try to be that cop that tried to give the person, a fair chance. But what happens is that system is not designed even for the person like myself that wants to give the fair opportunity. Either you've got to play by the rules that they're giving you, or you won't be there long. And so even after being a cop, I decided, hey, let me become a detective. Let me work hard to become a detective. That way I can go out and investigate cases and say, if this person is not guilty, I'm not going to, prosecute them on this case. But what happens is that, it's like you're fighting a losing battle, because you're trying to do what but it's like the system, even you as a member of the system, can't even do the right thing. So I can imagine what happens when someone that comes into the system and does not have a support source. And so, my final stop in a prosecutor's office, to where, I just saw some of the prosecutors there that were very inexperienced, but you're sending people to prison, but you're not even consistent in the role that you have. And then you have the top prosecutor that's pushing back against them to say, hey, we want numbers. It doesn't matter, because if they get the numbers, if they get the track record, then hey, they're getting this 95% rate. So that way they're setting themselves up for the next election. And so, I think there becomes a time to where, when it comes to politicians, right now we're in the midst of voting in the next couple of days. And so what happens is that we've got to find some type of way to demand some justice, because you're not, as long as there's something to where we're going to vote and we're just trying to stand for, specific issues, it's so much deeper than, and I understand that we're dealing with movements to where, we have the Black Lives Matter, but there's just so much at stake, that we have to consider, when we're talking about this election. And I think society just doesn't really see, because they're just not trying to present to society what, what's important. But I think we're all fighting for our lives with, this election that's coming up. And so it's like we've got to find some type of way to turn that, to turn that corner.
Something about you, Governor, that strikes me, because I was also in the prosecutorial side of things as the head legal secretary for a prosecutor, so I was in court 3 days a week. But I was just the legal secretary. You had all this promise of really moving up the ranks, but something about you said it's not worth it, because I can't do this. Is eating you alive. So you had to make a change. You had to make a choice, and it was a choice that you made. So kudos to you.
Absolutely. Saying I tell people, I could have when I decided to step away from them, I could have rode the ranks, and but I couldn't do it, because even when I prosecuted crimes, I wanted to prosecute crimes as though if it were my family member, how would I want to look at, and I think that's where the profession loses a lot of people that work in it. They don't see the human side of what their work does. They're only looking at, making the numbers or being able to make the next advancement in their careers. They're not understanding that they're dealing with human lives, and and that that's the problem. And for me, I've always said that I can go anywhere on the globe and so, but it got to the point to where even though different changes to try to say, hey, well, how can I do more? When there's a broken system, you're fighting against the system, and there's nothing that you can do. And at some point, when your conscience is to have peace, you just got to step away. And that's the decision I made. I chose to step away. I started to write my book. Probably within the last 2 or 3 years before I decided to, walk away from the profession. And it's, it's the thing that, whenever profession of enforcement, they always plant the seed that it's you against them. That, that's the seed that they plant. So what happens is that you're trying to choose between holding the career, holding the profession, and being able to, to treat people with humanity. And what happens is that at some point that they don't match up. At some point you've got to be able to make a choice to say, hey, I got to step up, because I have to be able to have peace, for myself.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to hear from John Esteen now. And then DJ, I want you to talk about the Green Wall after John. I still want to talk to Sonia, and I want to get back on with Taxpayers for Change. She has something else she'd like to say too. So John, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Tell us what you're doing now, about the segue from being incarcerated to being home, any kind of issues, the technological issues, which I know Sonia has helped you with a great deal. So fill us in on yourself.
Okay. I grew up in basically a middle-class family. Pretty much everything I needed. So I wonder why I chose the route that I did, and selling drugs and stuff to that nature. I'm still asking myself that question too. So, however, I always wanted to play sports. You know, I always want to play on the gridiron. I want to play in the NFL. So that's the route I was going on all the way up to college. I went to play for Nicholls State University. Um, but it had some things, had some roadblocks prior to me getting to Nicholls State that made me allowed me to make some bad choices. I consider bad choices because it's kind of turned my life around to a direction that was unexpected to me. And of course, you know, it's dealing with incarceration. But the choice I made is that, you know, I went to Catholic schools most of my life and all the way to high school. But I left high school, Catholic high school, went to public school for my junior, senior year, my last 2 years of high school. And as a result of that, I didn't have the core curricular grades to get a full scholarship to play football to any college. So I came with the bright idea of getting a National Guard, you know, because I got a half scholarship, and I figured that the National Guard would foot the rest, which they did. To make a long story short, in that arena is that by the time I went to Nicholls State and tried out for the team, I wound up getting a full scholarship anyway. But as you know, I was stuck in the National Guard as well. I made a commitment. So I did my basic training. I did my AIT school in Baltimore, Maryland. So when I finished all that, then I went back to Nicholls State to pursue my football career. As I was doing that, you know, I graduated from high school in 87, got to Nicholls State in 88. And about 89, started get film my way, get my full scholarship. About 1990, I get a letter deploying me to Saudi Arabia, going to war. Okay, so when I went, so I was like on the verge at that time, I was on the verge of going AWOL. I really didn't want to go. Lack of knowledge will destroy you, according to scripture. And I'm a prime example of that because I didn't know that by me being in school and college, I didn't have to go to war. You see, so I'm going through all this mental anguish for nothing, but I went through it because of lack of knowledge. So I get over there in Saudi Arabia. I get over there and I experienced some things, you know, and I believe that's, I remember one particular situation where I felt that I really gave up, you know, when they was bombing us, and we was in these annex carts with these train carts, and we sitting in there with chemical suits, with no windows or anything. We just sitting in there in the middle of the desert, not knowing if you're going to see the next day. You see, we getting bombed all through the night, 12 midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, sirens going off, you know. So also had a threat of nuclear warfare, like having chemicals in the warheads that was bombing us. The Patriot missile intercepting, blowing in the sky, fragile metal going all over, you know. So it was dangerous times, but it was quick. But we did the moment that was going through it was detrimental and to me, and I did have a girlfriend at the time was pregnant, and to add on to all that, you know, not knowing that I'm gonna come home alive now, she wound up getting an abortion. Okay, so all that weighed on me, you know. I sucked all that up, but the incident I was talking about when I was in Saudi Arabia that I felt I gave up is that I'm in the annex cart with 3 other guys, 4 is total. And I just got to the point where I'm not putting my chemical suit on anymore. You know, I said, man, I ain't worried about it, man. There ain't, you know, chemicals all this time. There's not gonna be any chemicals. You know, just whatever happened. You know, and that's why I think my little transformation went on in my life. So I come home. 1990, 91, went there in 1990, got home in 91. I tried to make my way back to playing football in Nicholls State. I wound up to get back in the system. I went to Delgado University, and I took up aircraft maintenance and stuff like that, because I was in diesel mechanic in the National Guard. So I stayed in the maintenance field. So there is when I caught my first charge, my first drug charge. Wound up going to the feds. So that curtailed my career right there off top. I did 3.5 years in Pensacola, Florida for a half kilo cocaine. Okay. So I got with some guys up there, you know, and one of the guys I really hung out with, a guy named called Roger. He was a Christian type guy, you know. So he was my workout partner too. So I hung with him. So I just went to church with him, you know. But it didn't make sense to me at the time, even though I grew up Catholic. The way he was worshiping was foreign to me. All right, but at the same time, he was planting seeds in my heart, not unknown to me. Okay, so I get out there 92. I get there feds. I get out the feds in 95. I'm married. You know, I'm married to that same young lady I was with. Went to the war. That was with me then. Despite all that, I just put that behind me. And so when I got a job. I'm trying to do the right thing. You know, I'm missing a key factor here too, because when I came home from war, my unit was never debriefed. See, we went straight to society. You know, no psychological evaluations at all. You know, so my family sort of changed me, but I didn't know I changed. You see, you know, and after reading things, when you go through something like that, you're gonna make changes. Things are gonna change with you, you know. But it wasn't to me. I was the same person. But my mother, my sister, they kept it to themselves though. But they saw something different about me, and and then my wife at the time, the smallest little thing she do is say, I go off, you know. And I thought it was her, but it was me the whole time that changed. Okay. But I went through all that, and so my neighborhood I grew up in had, you know, I mean, I got a job and working with odd jobs, working for my mama. She trying to help me out. I get little jobs with the racetracks. I do the teller thing. I tried different things, and I never could hold a job. You see, I was at the time I felt I was lost. I had no hope in life. You know, I was struggling. I wanted to achieve certain things, and I just couldn't get there. You understand? So I would start making decisions, bad decisions, and my friends, you know, they were selling drugs. So I said, let me try this. You know, I had a sense of ownership now. You know, I felt that I could do something what I want to do, and that was a trap for me. You see, and so now I come on. You would think I learned my lesson, you know, from being in the feds. Coming home, I thought I learned my lesson. You see, I'm just thinking that I'll never get caught. You know, I know what happened to me the first time. Now here I go this time. It was 95. I come home. I ain't touched drugs until 97, actually. In 97. And I get caught my charge in 98. And I wound up going to the state facility this time in the parish jail. And there I stayed 2.5 years going through the process before I go on a trial. 2.5 years building the case, because they never caught me in any drugs or anything. But long story short on that, I wound up after the 2.5 years, I get 150 years flat for drugs that never got off of me. You know, they made me the drug kingpin. All right. Like the other guy said, he wanted to be the drug kingpin. I think it was Roger. Say I wanted to be the drug kingpin, but it never worked out for him. I ain't tried it. I was just a middleman, and they wanted to put me as a drug kingpin. You see? You know, and so now that landed me in Angola after 2.5 years of fighting in the parish jail. I went to Angola, and 150 years flat. Laws change. So I stayed, you know, pretty much abreast of law. Not my first time. When I first got up there, you know, I had to find my way. It was like a city of its own. Angola is huge. It's a large place. You know, I mean, you can see one man one day and not see him 4 or 5 years from then. Okay, that's how big Angola. It got different little camps within one grounds. Okay, and so I got into sports. I played football up there, tackle football, played basketball, boxing. I did everything to occupy myself, you know, to keep me in a I guess a good frame of mind. But I was losing. I was getting to the point where I was getting bought out of court. There's a such thing called 930.8. You know, 930.8. There was a Bill Clinton Anti-Terrorist Act, tough on crime type era. You know, so that kind of destroyed a lot of people going back to courts after 2 years, exhausting your remedies in this, in the court system. So now my only hope is the law change. You know, so by me being non-violent offender, by me being under the old act, I found Act 138, which you do half your time. Okay, and they changed that to another act. Then they finally changed it in 90. I went in, let me see, that was 95. 1995, they had changed the law again, and that's what it affected me by being a non-violent offender, okay? But it wasn't applicable to me. It wasn't applicable to me. It was only for those, and now catch this, it was only for those who were third or fourth offenders or more and with life sentences. My situation is I'm a second offender with numbers. All right. So for me to reap the benefit, I had to be a worse class offender. You see, I had to be third, and I had to have life sentence to reap the more lenient penalty phase. See, 1995 they came with the more lenient penalty phase. You know, because they know that people they threw away with these non-violent charge, they overcharged them. You see, so now they're cleaning it up. But first offenders and second offenders were stuck. You know, they just, you know, so now I'm going through the court system. I'm going to law libraries for years. You know, this happened 95, you know, so everything I put in the court, one word denied, you know, but I felt something. You know, I kept on going to law library, talking to inmate counsels, man, things I don't know, I question them, okay? And so I got this little bright idea. I said, well, it's not applicable to me, but I need proof. I need proof that it's not. So what I did, I filed for it anyway. I filed for it. So when it came back in the mail, sealed, you know, it's saying that, you know, you don't apply because you're a second offender. Then they doubled back and gave me a letter explaining why. So now I have Exhibit A and I have Exhibit B to go on my motions now, you see? So I say, man, now I'm starting to see some daylight here. I start to see the end of the tunnel, you know? But to make a long story short with that, I wound up going to the Louisiana Supreme Court my second time. They gave me an oral argument. They granted me an oral argument. So the judge, the Chief Justice, got the Louisiana Southern University Law Clinic to represent me in the oral argument. After 17 months sitting in there, I forgot all about the motion in there. You know, that's how long this process is. Second time, you know, so I'm sitting 4 or 5 years going through this, you know, holding on to it, because I know I got them. Because every time they started to talk to me when they denied me now. I said, never talked to me before. You see, so they start putting words in my mouth that I did not say. I say, okay. He started using one case to deny me with. Now look at that guy's case, Wesley Dick, Wesley Dick versus state of Louisiana. I started looking at that. I said, well, what this guy got in common? What is it? Why are they using this one only case to deny me with? So I researched him. And come find out, this guy here is a heroin dealer. I was a cocaine dealer. This dude have life. I have numbers. What's the correlation? You see? And so I start putting all that in my motions. I said, man, I start. Then once it come to a head, come to find out, the judicial branch and the executive branch was crossing jurisdiction. They was trying to make me go on the pardon parole board when all actuality, I was supposed to go through the court system, where I got sentenced at in the beginning. It's a judicial matter because my sentence is illegal. You see, when they changed the law in 95, they made it retroactive. You see, when they made it retroactive, my sentence became illegal. But still, I couldn't get out because I had to be a 34th offender with a life sentence. And so that's when my exhibit stopped. That's when they came in effect. That's when it impacted my motion then, you see? And now, even though I won the oral argument, I won it, granted, but guess what? I go to court and I have another judge and she maxed me out on all 4 counts. She never gave me more lenient penalty. She ran she kept my time, my 4 counts I have running wild. And she maxed me out, which my sentence wasn't originally maxed out. She maxed me out, okay, and sent me back to Angola. Now, I don't have 150 years anymore. I have 100 years. But thank God for the new laws. I have parole eligibility because I have numbers. And I had to be 45 years old and I had to have 20 years in. I was 50 years old and I had 20 years and over 20 years in. So I'm good. So they put me on the board. So I'll go on the board, shaking like a 57 Chevy, you know.
Oh man.
You know, and weighed and went through the process. And it went well. So I made it was March 12th, I went on the board. It was March 12th. And it happened to be, how you doing, sis? And it happened to be my mother's birthday.
Yeah.
My parole. And I come home March 14th. 2 days after my mother's birthday, it was my cousin's birthday. So everything was lovely. And additional to that is that NBC Dateline has a lot to do with that. Okay, NBC Dateline covered my story. After I got wind of it, because I was in newspapers fighting my trial. I was, NBC Dateline got a hold of it. They Angola. Stayed with me. The next day they come, they got the cameras on me, all the way to the pardon parole board. They couldn't go inside the building, but they walked me to the door. And after over it, I was there. They interviewed me then. It was, and then they went. Then 2 days later, they came back and filmed me leaving, and they ride with me all the way to my house. And that to me was, it was like bittersweet to me, because what I went through, how I got there was very, very hard. It was very taxing on me, not very mentally. It's stressful. But at the end, it was so sweet. It had so much support, and my story helped many people. And know that even though I won it, it didn't apply to me. But hundreds of inmates went home on that case. They call it the Epstein case now. All the judges, all of them know my case in Louisiana as the Epstein case. They named it. I did.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What I want to ask too is, I want you to tell us a little bit about East North Second Wind.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
All right. East Second Wind. I came up with that name. It's my nonprofit organization that I created. I'm the founder of this and the president. Actually, my sister probably she run everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to help people. I want to help and serve people. That's why I came with the slogan: "We help, we serve. Is what you deserve." You know, we want to give people, want them to feel like they deserve this help. You know, and I was fortunate when I came home that I had a car to use. I had people to bring me on my errands. You know, I just had what most people didn't have coming out of prison. To take care of all their prison, get their driver's license. I mean, get all the necessary things. Have friends, give me clothes. You know, my sister been out for a while. She was there for me technically, you know, and spiritually and physically. You know, she was there for me. And it was, and I felt like this: E&E Second Wind need to be that parent club to help these people coming home, men and women come home from prison, to have this, give them the same thing that I had when I came home. Now that's the basis of it. That's how to come up with E&E Second Wind. But actually it was just Second Wind. I had to put a prefix on it because even though it's second to ND, but it had another company with a second spelled out. So it sounded like, so I had to put a prefix or a suffix on it. So I put a prefix on it, which is E-N-E, which is Esteen and Esteen. Okay. And the purpose of it is to help those coming home to make a smooth transition back into society, okay, and to lower the recidivism rate. And how we do this, is by transportation services, educational, and mental health services. I think mental health is the main emphasis here, because I think if a guy I think if you did so much time in prison, just like I was in military and I did in prison also, you're gonna have some kind of psychological problems. I don't care who you are, you're human, okay? You're used to whistles blowing, you're being controlled at every facet of your life. Now you come to a free society and none of this going on all of a sudden. Something wrong, you know? I'll give you an example. I'm sitting in front of my mama's house. I see a guy across the street every day at the same time, sitting in his truck for hours. Now, I think that's kind of strange.
Yeah, that is.
I'm watching them. I'm on the phone with another guy who's been out about 10 years from Angola. He said, I'm telling him about it on the phone, and he tells me, he said, Esteen, don't worry about that. I know you're strong. Don't look, these people been out here. That's what they do. You see, you're not used to this yet. You know, it's gonna take a while. We all go through it. So when he explained this to me, I started to understand. But my mind, I want to go see why. I think he's looking at me or something. My mind. That's how my mind was going. You know, those are the difficulties, my roadblocks that I was going through. You see, now.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there is so much you have to deal with when you finally get out, because the world is not going to sit there and wait for you to get out to move forward. So, you know, there are the technological issues, there's the depression, there's the fear of other people, there's the fear of going back. There's and in many cases, those who are finally released are hungry. I mean, they have no funding. They're released with the clothes on their back and maybe $15. Right. So they, you know, and if you get into some kind of a home that's going to help you, you know, to a rehabilitation center, those are not always a good idea. You know, some of those are not what they claim to be. So you have to be very careful where you're going to go, you know. So there are so many obstacles facing anybody that's been incarcerated. And something that I think is also very hard is, you know, as an advocate, it's very important to me to get the word out there. These people that are incarcerated, thank God, John, you had Dateline, but there are so many people that are begging to have their voices heard.
Right.
And so, you know, that I think that would be a great topic maybe for another live panel discussion, is maybe everybody put their heads together and just brainstorm on what is the best way to get an incarcerated person's story out there, because that's not easy.
Right.
You know,
No,
not
it's
easy.
not easy because, you got to think about the fact that they're not able to have the phones or like we have right now, we have Zoom and we can do all that where we can get things out there and get it put on the different media, social medias and stuff like that. So with an incarcerated person, such as myself and my brother, we can't do that. We have to actually lean on the people that's on the outside to do that. And it's hard
Yes.
because, of course, they have their lives and they have their things that they have to do as well. And we cannot, expect them to stop what they're doing just to do it for us. So yes, that is very hard. And for someone to possibly go inside and talk with certain people and maybe record it there or what have you, if that's even possible, that would be another way, avenue to get their story out. Other than that, I don't see a way of doing it, to be honest.
Right. Exactly.
It takes a village. It takes everybody pulling together.
Right.
Everybody pulling together. I don't care what your nonprofit is. I don't care if you don't have a nonprofit. I don't care if you're an advocate. I don't care if you're a family member. We all need to work together to promote change. Without us working together and pulling together, there's not going to be change. We don't have to agree on every topic, but we need to at least agree on the basics, the most basic of beliefs that, these people that are incarcerated are people,
Yeah.
are citizens, are citizens and need to be treated like citizens, which brings me to DJ. DJ, tell us about the Green Wall and tell us about yourself.
Hey, John, I really commend you for what you did. And you hung in there and you pushed the issue, and I'm so proud of you. And you didn't talk last time very much, but
Yeah.
your story is incredible. And Governor Henderson, and I just commend you for what you did and the service you did and what you saw and the right thing. And just you've seen a lot too working in that environment. And Roger, just my hat's off for you to you. And you've seen a lot, and you've seen a lot, probably a lot more than I have. So, but yeah, my story. How do I start? I grew up in California. I came from a middle-class family. I always wanted to be in law enforcement when I graduated high school. And I attended a junior college for 2 years, played college basketball there, and ended up going to a university on a scholarship. And I didn't last very long because I was just burned out playing basketball and going to college. And so I came home and my dad, and he said, "Hey, son, we'll help you get to another college and finish your degree in criminal justice." I got a 2-year degree in criminal justice. And I said, "Dad, you know what? I think I need to go in the military. I get my stuff straight and, get me back on track." And he said, "Well, son, let's go in the military." I tried to get in the Air Force, but it was a freeze. So I joined the United States Army in 1983. I ended up my first assignment at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was detached to a Special Forces unit, which is a JFK. The unit I was with was, John probably heard of it, HHC, First SOCOM. We oversaw all the Green Berets and the Rangers and civil affairs and all that. I worked in the G1, the upper administration where the generals were and all that. So about 4 years, I did about 4 years, and then I ended up wanted to come home back to California from North Carolina. I wanted to get back in law enforcement again. And back in 1987, I wanted to get into the LAPD or LA County Sheriff, but it was a hiring freeze. Nobody was hiring in that area. But my dad said, "Hey, son, the Department of Corrections is hiring in California. They're looking for prison guards." I said, "Yeah, Dad, that'll work. That'll work." And he sent me an application, and 5 months later, I was on the way home, and I ended up going back home with my mom and dad living with them. And I tested with the Department of Corrections. So I ended up in the Department of Corrections in March of 1988 in California and attended the academy. Right after the academy, I landed an assignment at Corcoran State Prison. It's a high, powerful security housing unit. Mostly convicts and inmates were in there for 85% were in for murder. They were never going to go home. Life without parole. And that was the place where Charles Manson was housed, and then several other high gang members in the SHU. So I stayed there for about 4 years, and I sort of got burned out at that prison. And I needed a change. I wanted to go down to the lower desert, which is in Calipatria State Prison below Palm Springs, lower Southern California. I activated a prison down there in 1992. I landed my first assignment on the Investigative Services Unit, which back then they called the ISU, the Goon Squad. I ended up becoming the evidence officer at that prison, and I did all the crime scenes, horrific crimes, anything that happened to do with inside the prison walls on criminal stuff. I handled that. So I met my first wife down there, and she was a native from down there, never been there. So she wanted to get out of there and go to Northern California, up near the Oregon border where her mom was. I said, well, I'll transfer up there. So I ended up going to Pelican Bay State Prison in Northern California. I ended up going to Pelican Bay in 1992. I went up there and took her up there, and I met a good friend of mine. His name was Joe Reynoso, who I worked with at Corcoran State Prison. He was in charge of the Investigative Service Unit there at Corcoran, Pelican Bay. So I ended up going working for him and being the evidence officer up there. And I saw so much criminal activity, and I did a lot of crime scenes, and you name it. I was the #1 called in to do all the crime scenes. And then the outside detectives and law enforcement would come in on a homicide or something like that. So it rained a lot up there in Northern California. It rained constantly, and my wife was like burned out, and she was getting cabin fever. And we just had my little boy born up there, and she wanted a change. So I ended up going to Salinas Valley State Prison in Monterey, California. I transferred there in 1996. Again, I landed an ISU assignment as the evidence officer, and other things I did in ISU. And I got burned out. So in 1998, I left that unit, and I wanted to go back to the main line as a mainline officer. I worked on one of the biggest horrific yards at that prison. We had 4 yards, A, B, C, and D. I ended up working that D yard. And on 1998, Thanksgiving, we had a riot. Southern Hispanic inmates attacked staff on the upper yard. They didn't even know it was happening. So anyways, a good friend of mine who was a lieutenant of that yard that day told me, hey, Vodka, will you do me a favor, go get the evidence camera. I need you to do the crime scene for me. I said, no problem, Lieutenant Lewis. So I went and got the camera. And as some of these officers were, after the yard went down, we had some staff members injured, and some of them were taken to the hospital. Some inmates were taken to the hospital. After that, we had some of the inmates escorted to a room where I wanted to take pictures of these inmates prior to being escorted back to their cells. I want to make sure they didn't have what kind of injuries they had on them and all this. So I photographed them head to toe. Well, during that time, some of the officers I worked for called me a rat and a snitch, an inmate lover. Who are you protecting now? Are you protecting the inmates, or are you going to be one of us? And I said, no, you guys, you know what? You do your job, I'll do my job. You know, and you know, so I was a marked man. So a couple months later, the big investigations came down from Sacramento, Internal Affairs out of California. They came down and they did a big investigation. They called me into an office, and I asked for there was a union rep there from Sacramento. He wanted to be on every interview, and I turned at him. I said, I don't need your representation. I did nothing wrong, so I don't want you to sit in this interview. Because what they do is they get the feed that, and they go back to the headquarters and they tell their bosses what's going on. So I don't need you in here. So he was a little upset about that. So I went in there for 3 or 4 hours with them, and I showed all the pictures to the detectives and all that, and they couldn't believe it. They didn't even know these pictures existed. And I brought the pictures, you know, I had them with me, because they were trying to cover up this incident. So shortly after that, I ended up being a marked man. I was a marked man from 1998 to 2001. Green Wall was active, very serious. They called themselves the 723. The 7th letter of the alphabet is G. The 23rd is W. They had gang signs they would throw up, and they would do whatever they wanted to do with the backing of the warden at that prison. The warden at that prison was in control of the Green Wall. He told these guys who were part of the IS unit, Internal Affairs, part of the Goon Squad, they were the active members of the Green Wall. So these guys were good size. I'm 6'5", about 320. So some of these guys were my size and bigger.
Wow.
And yeah, they were big guys. I mean, When these guys in the goon squad would come onto the yard, the whole yard got quiet. Everybody would just stop. Because these guys, when they came on the yard, they were up to no good. They were going to some inmate cell or somewhere to do illegal criminal activity. So shortly after that, in 2001, I was ordered by the warden at that prison. He called me up to his office and he said, Officer Boddicker, I need to know what you know about the Green Wall. I want to know everything you know. I said, sir, I work with these guys. I have to be around them. So that's not the issue. I need you to know everything you know and have it on my desk by Monday morning. I said, okay. So I ended up typing up a report, 2-page report, stamped it confidential, and I contacted my boss, Joe Reynoso, a friend of mine. Said, DJ, I taught you well. Burn copies, keep a copy for yourself and turn it in, which I did on that Monday morning. Well, 2 months later, I get approached. It was not on 9/11, 2001, the same time that towers were attacked. These 4 officers came down to where I worked at and asked to talk to me. They brought me into my little area I was at, and they quoted verbatim out of my confidential memorandum that I had. They quoted, and the only person that had that report was the warden. And I didn't know this. He threw me under the bus. I didn't know this. So I lost it. Guys. I'm a marked man. So I ended up going home that night, and I was alerted by the OIG, Office Inspector General of Sacramento, came to my house, recorded me for about 4 hours on everything I knew.
Wow.
And then I went back to work to see if I can go back to work and try to hang in the vehicle sally port, which all the vehicles come in. That's where my job was, away from the inmate population and all that. So they came in with their vehicles, and I didn't even know they're coming in. They came into the vehicle sally port, 8 vehicles deep, checked their weapons, went to the ISU unit, emptied all the ISU officers out, got all their files and everything, took the warden out of the office. And I'm a marked man. Now I'm dead. I'm by the officer, I'm dead. So they moved me overnight to a prison overnight with the help of Joe Reynoso. And I ended up reporting to a prison the next Monday, and it's very unheard of for somebody to do that. So I was over there for about 7 or 8 months, and then I ended up running to a housing alarm on a yard, and I got in through the rotunda, and all the officers behind me stopped at the front door. It was a setup to take me out. It was Hispanics, and the black inmates were fighting inside the day room. There was a Hispanic inmate at the door with a mop handle. If I would have stepped in, he would have nailed me. The gunner upstairs said, Boddicker, stop. I don't want you to go in. And I stopped. And that was my last day at the prison. So shortly after that, I had to seek an attorney. My own union wouldn't back me up. I had a chapter president, CCPUA. I asked him for help. I went to him and he said, oh, you're Officer Boddicker. We've been advised not to talk to you. And he walked away from me. My own union president. So shortly after that, I got a civil attorney. And I went out on PTSD on workman's comp, which they got to give me a PTSD. And then I ended up testifying in the Senate hearing state capitol in 2004 when Schwarzenegger was the governor at his state capitol, the full courthouse. I got escorted by the California Highway Patrol, and they were heavily armed. And I got into the courthouse, it was packed. I testified in the Senate hearings for 2.5 hours. And then shortly out, my story did hit the front page of the LA Times then. And shortly after that night, they took me off the grid in hiding for 6 months up in Northern California, where everything started settling down a little bit until I went to civil litigation. My story is very powerful. I ended up changing laws in the Department of Corrections, changing whistleblowers to come forward to tell their stories without retaliation or retribution. My little boy at the time, when I was attending a mid-state fair down in California, he was 5 years old at the time. We went to a fair, and on the way out, I was challenged by a supervisor, got in my face and told me to drop the case in front of my little boy. And so I had to head him back up to Northern California, back home. And then I had a good attorney, and we took on the Department of Corrections. And 2 weeks before trial, we settled with the department. But a few months before that, I buried my father. My father died of cancer, and his last words were to me to write this book and share it to the world. Everybody needs to know what happens, what a good stand-up correctional officer like you or your mom and dad are proud of you. And that was his last words to me. And that's why I wrote the book. And
Absolutely.
here we are now. So
Awesome.
that's my story. You know, I mean, I was one man against 30,000 officers. I mean, the California Department of Corrections in California is the largest prison system in the nation. And they wouldn't do nothing for me. And you know what it's all about? I took an oath. I took an oath to, you know, to protect and serve, not to adhere to the code, of silence. I don't believe in the code of silence.
Absolutely.
Like Sandy, everybody out here, everybody's human. You know, I want to see prison reform. I don't want to see these inmates or convicts called Inmate Smith or whatever. Call them by their last name, like Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones or whatever. You know, it sounds a lot more human than rather, hey, inmate, come over here. Hair convict, come over here. That's just demeaning, you know. And my years in there, I was assaulted one time. The guy wasn't all there, but a lot of the convicts and inmates had a lot of respect for me. And to this day, they have a lot of respect. My lawyer gets letters all the time. They fighting cases and stuff like that. It's just, and I'm glad I came onto this talk show, Sandy, with you guys. It's just
Absolutely.
it's one of the most powerful stories out there. I know there's a lot of people say there's no book like this, DJ. I mean, lawyers use my book as references, and it took a lot. It took, with my wife, you know, my wife told me to sit down and start typing, and my dad, and I kept all my evidence, everything in this book right here, guys, everything in this book right here. It's got all the evidence in it. I mean, I got depositions, and in the 11 years it's been self-published, never challenged by the union. They know they never can come after me because I'll take them down. I mean, there's so much corruption behind the walls in the Department of Correction that the media never sees.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, DJ, I mean, it's an honor to have you on this evening. You know, with everything you've been through, trying to do the right thing doesn't always pay off at first, does it? But then you keep going, and then all of a sudden you're breaking the barriers and you're doing something. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your YouTube series?
Well, I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately, guys. I mean, with prison reform and everything going on in the United States with this, you know, rioting and all that, and people are finding my story. And I've just been doing a lot of podcasts, and I'm on a lot of stories on YouTube. And I was discovered a year ago by a film company out of LA, and right now we're in development for a feature film. So we'll see where that goes.
Absolutely. Good deal.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Good
But
job.
you know, I mean, you guys, John, Roger, James, whoever the name of the taxpayers, you know, sorry about that. You know, I mean, hold on. I'll go back in again. Sorry about that. Anyways, everybody on this show, Sandy, I mean, you got to understand, you're human. I don't look at you guys any different.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't look at you guys any different at all. You're human.
Guys, may I say something that DJ and Governor Henderson both got a conscience. And I think that's where some of them did in the prosecutor's system and in the officers I know down there. It doesn't seem like any of them have it as a conscience, and both of you guys do.
Appreciate that, Roger.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I just want to share my cause, and you guys do keep pushing what you guys got to do. And anytime I can help you and in any way, just let me know.
Absolutely.
That's one hell of a story, DJ.
Thanks,
Oh,
James.
yes, DJ, very definitely. Oh, my daughter comes and brings me Sprite.
What's in the Sprite? What's in the Sprite?
Just regular Sprite. She comes and brings me Sprite. So she says she wanted to bring me wanted to use the glasses that we drink
Guess
wine
what?
in. There she is behind me.
Guess what this is, Roger?
There you go. Cheers.
Cheers.
Find out, man. Let me find
Sorry,
out.
drank mine.
All right. So, Sonia, is there something else you'd like to share with us? Because you also were incarcerated.
Yes, I was incarcerated for 10 years. Actually, I had a 20-year sentence. Of course, you know, my brother and we was on the same case together. I did get 20 years, but I kind of like took a plea for that because it was a lot going on with that, and threatening me with my kids, and telling me I would never see my kids again if I didn't take the plea. Wanted me actually to speak up against my brother. They were really mad because I wouldn't. I did take flight and cut off the house arrest bracelet and left for a couple of years. They did finally catch up to me in Florida, but I was not about to go and talk against my brother, and they were very pissed with me, very pissed. So it was like, either take this 20 years or we're going to take you to court and you're going to probably not see your kids ever again, kind of thing. So me being a single mother and not really, wanting to be able to see my children again, of course, I did take that plea. She's actually a product of after I came home from prison. She's 8 years old now. I've been home for this year. Actually, this past October was 10 years that I've been home. And, when I came home, I wasn't fortunate like my brother. I had to really struggle and do things. And I actually got a job, but I had to go into a county that did not have a record of me being incarcerated to get a background check to be able to bring that to the job that I actually got to show that I did not have a criminal background history. That was the only way that I was able to get a job once I came home, because no one wanted to hire me, being that I was just coming home from prison. So, of course, I went back to school. I got my master's in business administration, my concentration in accounting.
Wow.
Now I have a job with Intuit Incorporated as a QuickBooks Live agent, or small QBK is what we call it, QuickBooks QBK. So I presently do that now. I've been working there since this past March, and it's great. I love the company. They are wonderful. I would recommend anyone to work for them. But I'm recently engaged, so we'll be getting married soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, my brother just recently got married too. He didn't mention that, but he just recently got married.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah.
And John approves of him, right?
Of course, he better.
I think Sonia runs the show here.
Yeah, I run the show here. My brother's just the backbone. He's just a person that he's got the muscle. I got the brains, he's got the muscles.
little bit.
Just a little. Yeah, I'm the one that got him with the technical stuff, because he really was like, I don't know how to do this. I said, I got him his computer, brung it to him. Here, let's go. We're going to learn this stuff today. We're going to do it. So, yeah. And that's what a lot of people that's incarcerated that we feel that needs to know when they come home, because they're going to be like really way left behind, because they don't know that. You don't get that in prison.
Absolutely.
We had classes, but it's like they pick and choose who they put in those classes. And it's hard to get in those classes. I actually had to be like, look, I had college. I know this. I want to get back in it. I want to get in this class. So when I get home, I want to do this. And they don't let people with long-term time in those classes. You have to have a short time, which is, okay. But, sometimes those classes are longer than, the person's going to be there. And it doesn't make sense for them to be there for 6 months when someone else could have filled that position. So it's crazy. It's, you got a lot of things that you got to deal with when you are incarcerated. So but I was a goody good in there though, because I got a lot of officers that kind of, come here, Sonia, come do this. I was like, don't y'all call me. I'm not, So,
Technology is difficult for people that have never been incarcerated, because it changes every day. There's always something new. So, every time I get a new cell phone, I think, oh man, I just got used to the last one.
Right?
And Sonia, Sonia is, I'm sure everybody knows my last day at my actual outside of the house job was this past Friday, because I wanted to make sure I had time for my advocacy work. So through John, I met Sonia, and through Sonia, she has given me the opportunity to work from home, customer service, online work. So in between
Awesome.
my customer service work, yay, Sonia.
Yay.
So in between my customer service work, I'm going to be able to, fulfill my executive director job with Rescue Success and work on my advocacy work. So, where there's a will, there's a way. And that's something I want those who are incarcerated to not ever forget, because
Right.
if they give up, and I agree, there's not a lot of opportunities for incarcerated people. So there are several different groups out there that are trying to work. So, we just, I guess, keep going, keep pushing, keep working together, and join hands and pull each other along.
It's just like, when somebody coming out of the institution that gets a job, like in a position, and that person's more qualified than the person that hasn't been to prison. As an employer, I would take the person who's more qualified, even though he did time. He comes out, I'm going to hire him. I don't. That's the way I look at it. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that
because-
classification.
Right.
Mhm.
And you know what, and I find too, a lot of people that has come out of prison that actually want to do it will give you more than that person that's been home. Because they're gonna prove themselves to you that they can do it because you gave them that chance.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want taxpayers fill in. Can you unmute yourself, please?
I'm
Yes,
sorry. Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to jump in because I am a reentry employment specialist. I worked in the prisons in Florida for over 10 years. So I didn't realize that you guys, I know I jumped in on your meeting and I appreciate you allowing me time in, because there's several things I like to say to you all. One, I like to address the police officer that first spoke after me. Sir, I'm not sure that when I first spoke that maybe my microphone is not on, because the first thing I said was that we're the boss. You, the host, and all the panels, we're the boss. And as I hear you guys talking, you just said, well, I hope we just try and we just got to keep trying. What the heck are you guys talking about? This is the 21st century. This is the 21st century civil rights movement. We are free. God has blessed us. We don't have to beg or figure out what the heck to do. You all have already said it. I thank all of you for being so diligent and being able to survive your instances and all the things that you're going through. But did anybody ever think to stop to say, why am I tolerating this? How am I tolerating this? Why am I tolerating this? How can I put up with employees? Number one, people who have been to prison. I know you heard of CCs and DRs, corrective consultation, and just raping. I used the wrong word. Taking people's time for no reason, disciplinary review. Okay, inmates are sentenced to time. They're not sentenced to time and double time. So there is no oversight in prisons. We are allowing one prison secretary. There's not even two. Prison secretaries are there to incarcerate and to be security over all inmates. Their job is not re-entry. So the number one thing is we need a re-entry secretary. Everything that we can discuss or that we might make an observation of or a complaint, that's something that could be and needs to be corrected. Our money is being wasted and frivolously spent daily, taxpayer dollars. We sit back and allow 5 or 7 or one individual, one president, one employee, or one governor, or one mayor, or a committee of 5 or 7 to make decisions collectively for all of us. They're making decisions for us instead of on behalf of us. That's a difference. So as we move forward with thinking and complaining, how about just taking advantage of our opportunity that we're in the 21st century and we don't have to complain. We can actually remove any prison secretary, any mayor, any governor, because they're the employee. They have to do our will, what we're telling them. And we're sitting here on the panel discussing how wrong things are, how awful they are. What we're saying is, we have the wrong employees in place. People are worried about running organizations. No disrespect to you. I'm a nonprofit. But as I sit at the table watching people getting the most who are doing the least, I have to wonder, why would I be needing to allow others to get paid for something that they don't have any solutions for? Solutions like claiming felons and inmates on taxes. That's a solution. You see, that's something that people will vote for, sign off on, taxpayers. Why? Because it makes dollars and makes sense. And returning all jobs back to taxpayers, city, state, county, federal government jobs. Listen to what the panel just said. I couldn't get a job. You don't have to prove your worthiness. It's time served. By the way, why does Oliver North have a big job? Why did we allow him to be pardoned? You see, career crooks and criminals are sitting here committing crimes of the century, and we're sitting up here having to do day for day and watching our loved ones being wrongfully convicted, over sentenced, and the best people can do about it is have discussions, which are obviously important, and writing books. But where is the true reform and change going to take place and be enacted? Instead of having conversations, let's have organized oversight committees, because they all work for us. We don't have to wait for the employee to come up with the solution. Obviously, they're the problem. We can literally correct these things in the next couple of years. Repeal 1020 life, 3 strikes you're out, mandatory minimum, instead of complaining about all of the taxpayers that fall up under these stupid sentencing guidelines. We have allowed our employees to make so much suffocation laws. Laws are made to improve our society, to make a better life for us. By the way, I do applaud the police, but we need a ceasefire, and we need laws that allow, obviously, citizens to be have oversight over our not just our politicians, but our law enforcement. Why would we sit back and allow employees to break the law, to get away with breaking the law, and then we sit back and have to come up with funding to get people out who are over sentenced? By the way, no one ever realized that 9/11, the new Homeland Security laws that our employees put in place, that's when felons became, or people with criminal records with felonies couldn't get jobs. People have to trace back to the roots. What I do specifically, I work with the legislation. I've been working in the Capitol with these employees for a long time, and I didn't realize that they were an employee. But now that I realize it, I never talk to them in any fashion except for letting them know that the jig is up, and that when millions and millions and millions of taxpayer felons get woke up and understand that they're not working for the city, their state, their county, their federal government, that their tax dollars pay into, that their tax dollars pay the salaries of those who are denying them the right to work, they are going to not just demand justice. All felons will get justice, because you're not a felon, you're a taxpayer. What are we waiting on? Why? People who aren't working, they cannot claim Social Security. No one's addressing these things. See, these superficial things everybody is addressing, these little treetop things. The root of these things are, when people age out, there will be no Social Security there for them. But we can demand compensation for all people who have been wrongfully terminated. These things are recorded. If Indians who lost a war hundreds of years ago can come back and get land and casinos, what are we sitting here begging and waiting for? So I'm not going to dominate.
I'm sorry.
I'm not
I'm gonna
not
jump
going to
in here.
dominate the conversation. I'm just saying that reparations is a bad word when it's compensation that people should be asking for. And I'm not tripping on the Indians. I'm just saying that there are ways to go about obtaining what we need or what we desire besides just begging. And I didn't mean to be a racial slur, but I was just making
No, I didn't take it that way at all. I feel like as the host, I just don't have a choice but to jump in though. And I understand where you're coming from. I agree. You know, the government officials are paid. We are paying them for their job. They are working for us. The other thing I feel it's necessary to point out is that change is a progress. We all agree things have got to be done. Things are not going the way they need to be done. But unless we come together to promote change, I mean, I can't say, I want this done, and here are the facts, and here are how we can do it, and we're going to do it today. It's a process, in my opinion. But I'm going to open this up. I want to shout out to Maurice Clifton. He's been on another panel this evening, so he's joined us. Maurice, you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Hey, hi everybody. How y'all doing? John,
I'm on.
everybody. What's up, church?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I was on the reinvention center where we had life after prison. So I'm fresh released after 23 years of incarceration in federal prison as a first-time nonviolent offender. And I came home. I started my own organization called SAIL, Mississippi's Advocacy Initiative and Leadership, where I try to help guys like myself who had trouble readjusting to society, adjust to society, try to give them the things or the tools that they need, to reintegrate back into society successfully. So I try to bridge the gap between formerly incarcerated people, to make them become productive citizens. I'm also now a chaplain at the Mississippi Department of Correction. So I landed a job there after being home, after 10 months. So I'm here. I'm doing what I love, so yeah. While I was inside, I made sure to, program and learn the things that I needed to make the transition smooth so I wouldn't have the obstacles standing before me, for gainful employment. So that's all. I'm just Maurice, Sail with Sippy. I have a YouTube channel called Sail with Sippy. And so, you can subscribe so you can see some of the work that I've been done in my community, and locally and, around the state. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Sandy.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Maurice. It's been good. I know the other one you were on too had to have been amazing. It always is. But thanks for popping on and being with us.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I'm open. I'm an open book. So whatever you have,
Yeah. I think at this point, let's open it up for conversation. If anybody has anything they would like to say.
Hey, Sail, my name is DJ Vodka. Sandy's probably told you I'm the author of The Green Wall. I took down the prison system in California, and later on I'd like to hook up with you and just share my story with your viewers.
Are any of you guys in Florida?
I'm in Louisiana, Mississippi area, actually. I actually was incarcerated in Florida before they pulled me back over to Louisiana.
You get hit by those hurricanes?
Trying to link up with folks down there, up there in Louisiana for inmate rights and advocacy. And excuse me for jumping back in, but I know that things aren't going. What I'm bringing to the table, believe it or not, is the reality of how things can change. It doesn't matter if you're fighting for bees, trees, manatees.
We understand that, but you gotta,
it is
you also
the
have,
wave of the future. That's all I'm saying. That action, we don't have to keep begging and trying to figure out what we need to do. What we need to do is organize and move forward with realistic things other than no justice and no peace, because that's all everyone's getting is no justice and no peace.
well, we all understand that. And we understand where you're coming from. And like Miss Sandy was saying, we all need to get together. And that's all we are really doing, especially in the organizations that that I'm hearing on this panel today, is people coming together to work together to make the changes. And as she said too, it is a process. You cannot just say, okay, let's do this change and get together one day and the change is happening tomorrow. That's not going to happen.
I've been doing this
That's
for a
not going to
while.
happen.
You're so right.
And I understand that you have, and trust and believe. I don't know if you was incarcerated or not, but there's a lot of things that you may not know.
Well, no, I work in the prisons for over 10 years, but as a reentry employment specialist, I don't work for the system. And this is no disrespect. I'm saying everyone's doing a great job, but no one's ever said, hey, guess what? Felons aren't working for the city, state, the county, or the federal government because they don't realize they're allowing the government, the employees, to take away their jobs. People don't have to be unemployed. That's what I'm saying. Guess what? It's an awesome opportunity.
But that's just it though. You know what I'm saying? Because us coming from your reentry here in Louisiana is garbage. I'm gonna say it straight up like that. It's garbage.
Which reentry?
It's reentry, period, in the Louisiana.
No, I'm legislative. Facility. That's legislative. Reentry is what I did for 10 years in the prison.
Okay, like I say, the reentry program in Louisiana in this prison system is garbage. Right. Because what they tell us,
because we're allowing employees to structure
is that we can come home and be employed. Okay.
And there's no employment.
No, there isn't. Because you know why? Because
we're
the
allowing
employers
allowing politicians to take away the job.
The employers, it ain't nothing about the politicians. It's the employers that you go to.
What's your name, babe?
When they first hear about you being incarcerated, you're out the door.
You came in late. You came in late. What's your name again?
My name is Sonia.
Hi, Sonia. My name is Joanna. I'm better known as the Harriet Tubman of taxpayers and felons, and this is why. You're saying you're saying the same thing. The reason why is because a mayor, a governor, or a senator, representative took away taxpayer jobs. That's why felons can't work for the government. Now,
I didn't say anything about the government.
Corporate America has billions and trillions they're making off of inmates, off of canteen, off of all sorts.
Okay.
You gotta mute her. You really she's getting on my, sorry, no disrespect, guys, but she's getting on my nerves. Because you know what?
Yeah, I mean, because
Sonia,
yeah.
you're doing the right thing. And you know what? When she says about government oversight, you know what? They had government oversight with the Department of Corrections, and I sat in front of a Senate hearing, was in charge of the government oversight. So she doesn't know a lot what she's talking about. Maybe
I don't know that we're the boss. That taxpayers are the boss. I'm glad to be a part of this meeting because I am a investigative political reporter. So I'm going to report that, hey, guess what? People are having conversations and saying that I'm crazy for saying that we're the boss, that politicians are employees.
Nobody.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Success with your book. Thank you. Have a great day. I see what this is. A bunch of people that want to big themselves up. You don't want to change things. Thank you. I love that.
Nobody said you were crazy and no one said.
No, honey, it's not even that. I work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, guys.
No problem,
No problem, Sandy.
I wish you the best. Okay.
Maurice, I want to say I honor you that you are now chaplain. I'm also now a chaplain. I feel it an honor to go from prison to a badge.
Okay. Yeah. Who is it, is that Mr.
Lequette,
Okay, I'm
James
trying to. Okay.
Lequette.
Hey, what's up, Mr. LeKay? How you doing, sir?
What's
You
up?
okay? All right.
Yeah, because when I first came out, I wanted to go work for prisoners, and it was the easy way for me to get back in was I had to get the badge.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Where you at?
I'm in New York.
Okay, that's a blessing. Sonia, what part of Louisiana
Mhm.
are you in? Or Mississippi?
I'm actually in Carriere, Mississippi, but I'm from New
Okay.
Orleans.
Okay. How are you, Sonia?
I'm
I want
good.
to. All right. Listen. I want to give you this. I want to give you a powerful testimony. I want you to listen to this. It's I wouldn't say not all of the reentry, because one of the things that Mississippi has done, with Burl Cain being when he was commissioned down there, if he was
Yeah,
incarcerated
Beryl
down there,
King was actually in Angola, where my brother was
right,
at.
right.
Mhm.
So the one thing that he did was that he employed guys. He through the New Orleans Bible Seminary School,
My brother
NOBTS.
went through that too.
What's his name?
John Epstein. He's on here with
Uh,
us.
okay. Hey, Mr. Epstein,
Doing
and hey, I'm working with some of your former uh,
George
students.
King and all that. George
George
King and
King,
Ron Olivier. Ron
man,
Olivier.
Ron Olivier, George King, and
And probably,
Sidney,
old timer,
Sidney Deloach.
Sidney DeLoach. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, me and Sidney over 29, Mr. Epstein. What you do? I want you to send me. Look, I see him every day. I just got through talking to Sidney today, and Ron and I just came back from. If you go on my YouTube channel, we were in Florida we were in Texas for chaplaincy training a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And he did a sermon out there. He preached out there, man. They're doing good, man. And Reginald Watts just joined us last week.
Yeah, they send messages to me all the time.
Okay, man. It's a pleasure to meet you, man. It's a
Likewise.
pleasure.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Small world.
It's a small world, man. I can't wait to tell him, Mr. Epstein. I'm gonna go back and show him today, man. I'm saying, man, I was on there with John Epstein, man. What are you talking about? You know what? I'm gonna see him in the morning. Matter of fact, I can't even wait till in the morning. I'm gonna call him tonight and have a conference call and tell him, man. So yeah, I want to send you. I'm gonna drop my number in the chat box, man. You call me anytime, man. I'll be at work with them and whatever.
Okay.
If I can help you. Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, wait on the number.
Okay. I'm gonna drop it in there, man. So hold on, let me see. I gotta get to my chat.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna drop it to you. Yeah, it's a blessing, man. Anytime you need me, it just shows you the power of God, man, and what everything that He's done. I'm actually assigned to the reentry too, down in Mississippi. What I did while I was inside, I did reentry for like 15 years. In the federal system, I got certified as a NCCR instructor, and yeah, it's just some of the things I did all my time in federal prison. Go ahead.
Actually, Maurice, I actually did my time in Louisiana. So I moved to Mississippi after I come home about a couple of years ago. So, but I did my time in Louisiana. So it's a lot of things that the reentry program in there that they were telling the women that wasn't true.
So, I believe that.
So that's why, when she was talking about all that stuff that she was talking, I was like, you've never been incarcerated. You have no idea what they tell us while we're inside there. And they tell us a lot of lies most of the time.
They do.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say that's why it is so important to have reentry organizations. So you may not get the help on the inside, but when you get out, and the idea that there is no justice, there is justice. It takes a while to get that justice sometimes.
Yes.
But anybody that has been found innocent and released, or has served their time and has been released and has the opportunity to move on, would anybody say, actually just put me back in there?
No.
No, of course not,
No.
because you want to keep moving forward. That's why Maurice was, Sel was Sippy, and John and Roger. James Lickett is a huge advocate as well. You know, Governor Henderson, you know, the thing is there is hope. I struggle when I hear from people and talk to people that don't see that there is any hope, because there is hope, and crushing spirits is not the way to go about doing that. So I just, you know, I want to give James Lickett, I want to give you, I want to give Governor Henderson, Maurice, and Roger Upchurch another opportunity to speak for a minute, and then we'll go ahead and wind things down, and I'll post after the recording is.
I have a question for the governor.
Yes,
Go ahead.
James.
Governor, do you find that you're more effective and humanistic in your role now?
You know what?
You're more humanitarian than when you were a prosecutor?
You know what? I do, but I'll tell you, you know, it was a struggle because, you know, some of the very same things that I kind of stand for and believe in, I kind of did them when I was working there. And so I was just always a kind of I don't want to say, you know, a lonesome person, but, you know, I kind of was isolated, you know, when I did my job, because I just always believed that there was a different way to do it than what I saw. So I never had a problem with kind of being, you know, the solo person that kind of, you know, went against the grain of things that I saw, because, you know, I believe that if I prosecuted the case, then I had to believe in the case. And if I didn't believe in it, then I mean, there were some times to where, you know, I was told to look at some cases, and I said, hey, you know, this is my thought on it. Now, you know, if you don't want me to go forward with my thoughts on it, you probably need to, you know, give it to somebody else, you know. So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of my stand on it. And I took that stand, you know, until I did my last case and said, hey, you know, I can't do it anymore. So I just kind of stayed true to who I am, and but that's kind of because that's all I knew. So
Okay. So you never for the numbers then?
no, absolutely. You know,
Beautiful.
the numbers thing, you know, because what I found is that, you know, it was much easier to do the facts versus the numbers, because at some point, you know what's going to happen is that if you ever have something, you know, like John's story, you know, what's going to happen is at some point you're going to have to backtrack, and everybody that's connected with that circle, you know, that's I mean, it's to me it's a bad reputation. You know, there's so many things that you'll be surprised to where, because nobody challenges the system, no, they just assume that every conviction that you're going to take it, and that you're going to do it either to the end or till they give you some type of parole that you're blessed to get, and then you're gonna move forward. So it's not until somebody challenges that system or that particular case that you're gonna have a problem. But unfortunately, there's not enough people like John that's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna go to that law library, I'm gonna do my homework, because they just feel like, you know, you're not gonna challenge that conviction. And that's kind of where we're at, you know. And you know, I can see sometimes, you know, I look at some of the stories and I'm thinking, you know, I look at some of the disparities that they had in cases and sentences that, you know, I also, one of my positions, I worked as a narcotics agent, you know, undercover for many years. And I can tell you, you know, I could see some of the disparities in the punishment, to where, you know, one in particular being crack cocaine. You will have those sentences for crack cocaine, but those, the powder form of cocaine, that was used many years as a status drug, you know, you can't make crack cocaine if you don't have powder cocaine. So, you know, that's kind of you know, some of the things in the disparities that you would see, that I'm thinking, you know, these people are taking pleas for something to where, you know, it's like, if you challenge that, there's no way you can go and read this case law on another case and determine that they're giving this type of sentence for crack cocaine, but then this powder cocaine, you know, you're not, you know, you're only getting like a third of that. You know, that's a problem. So, you know, with those type of things, I could no longer do it, you know, because it's not, you know, it was not true to what I saw and what I knew.
I hear you.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a victim of that crack cocaine disparity. I went to prison in January 1997 for aiding and abetting the sale of 6.4 grams of cocaine. That's crack cocaine. Because I chose to take them to trial, because I wasn't in the state of Mississippi when the charge happened. They gave me 400 months. 400 months. That's 33 years, 4 months. The law was changed in 2007, and the justice system fought me all the way to 2020, January of this year, before they released me. The law changed in 2007, 2005, really, but you know, they implemented in 2007 to make it from 100 to 1 to 18 to 1. You know, in the federal system, you know, under Biden wrote the crime bill. That's where, well, under the Reagan administration, they changed it to make crack cocaine to get harsher sentences. The draconian, you know, drug sentencing laws to change, that sent a lot of us to prison, you know, out of the ghettos and, you know, the big cities and everything, man. So we had an influx of African Americans going to prison during the late 80s and the early 90s and stuff. And we still have people who are stuck in prison, even though they have changed the law from 100 to 1 to 18 to 1. They're still stuck because they might have received what they call a write-up or incident report during their incarceration, and they refuse to let them go, even though they say that it's no longer 100 to 1, but it's 18 to 1, when it should be, like Governor Henderson says, 1 to 1. But they still have a lot of us that are still trapped in prison, where the judges won't answer their motion. They got them still fighting. They still file a motion and everything, and they just made it retroactive in 2018. So people are still stuck in prison under the 100 to 1 crack cocaine law. And it's like that with the gun laws and everything, you know, with the Johnson case. Federal law is different. You know what I mean? So I was a first time offender with no priors, had never been in trouble before. No, not so much as a traffic ticket. So that's why I came out. So I don't want my son, I had 5 boys. I lost one of my sons November 18th of last year. But I don't want our kids to get trapped up in the same injustice that you know, that I came through. So It's not so much as, you know, it's not so much as when you have policemen who take the law into their hand, choosing to pick and choose who they want to prosecute, and to write and legislate laws designed to target a specific group of people. I mean, that's racial injustice in itself. You know,
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You know, they have, I'm not sure if a lot of people have kind of heard them talk about them, but they have now what they call these progressive prosecutors. And so basically what these prosecutors are deeming themselves as now as, you know, taking a more progressive route to being able to, you know, prosecute cases. Now, what it means is that you have some that are saying, look, you know, even if it comes down to a felony theft. So what they're saying is that they may say we're no longer going to have it to where the threshold is $500. We're going to have it to where it's got to be $1,500 now. Or what some of them are saying is that some of these cops that have, you know, bad history, they're no longer going to be allowed to prosecute cases in their courts. You know, so that's what some of these prosecutors are doing now. I'm in the state of Michigan, and actually Kim Worthy, the district attorney, she's one of those prosecutors. And so there's a few more others that they have now that's trying to follow the suit. But when I hear the young lady being frustrated, and when Sonia, talked about, it takes time, it does take time, because what's got to happen is that you got to have different transitional steps to be able to do it, because what you're not going to get them to change are things like the Constitution. It's old age. They're not going to change it, but what you've got to do is that you've got to be able to, we're going to be voting here, with this election, and what happens is that, we can't continue to have them to advocate for our votes, but there's nothing in return. And what has to happen is that, we can't be reactive to things like, the Black Lives Matter, to where, we're just concerned with the police violence. We've got to do the things that are going to cause a long-term effect for the prison mass incarceration system. And that's kind of where you got to get to, where, like we're talking about these charters for drugs, like you say, it's got to be one to one, because when it's 1 to 1, that's going to make them change when they figure out that, hey, they've got to charge that same white male in the suburbs the same thing they got to charge that guy that's saying is coming out of the ghetto. So whenever you can force them to make those changes, that is how you're going to see the change in the mass incarceration.
Yeah, but Governor Henderson, I want to pose two tough questions for you. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to remind people that the Constitution was written by people who owned slaves.
Absolutely.
So it was never written with us in mind.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. So now here I am, an incarcerated person with a life sentence, and I had, let's just say, in which there are several still left. All right, and I'm in prison, and Obama does all these clemency, but true prison reform never happens. So you just want to put a Band-Aid, on the bleeding by commuting the sentence, not completely pardoning them, commuting people's sentence from a life sentence to 30 years. You know that there's an injustice, but you still leave thousands of people's clemency on the table, which mine was one, and which I did the whole time in my 23 years of incarceration. I did it, like incident free, everything. I programmed, I taught class, I did everything I was supposed to do. But now you're going to tell me now with Biden, who wrote the 1994 crime bill, he's running for president, but you got people who are left behind under the Obama administration. How are you going to tell their families when Trump is signing clemencies, freeing these people? I'm saying not commuting their sentences, but sending them completely home with life sentences. How are you going to change the family's mind and tell them not to campaign or vote for Trump when he's freeing their loved ones?
You know what? And I'll tell you my reason, and that's a absolutely good question. And let me tell you, here's what's unfortunate about it is that, when you look at politicians, I would probably say, 90% of what they're going to do as far as some clemency, we know there's going to be some ulterior motive. We know that, I knew, right. we knew as close as we got to the election, even if it's a year in, he was going to free some people. But what happens is that, we're up against a situation now to where they're gonna go and it's just like, I'll give you a perfect example when COVID-19 hit America, just everywhere. So basically, you heard them talk about, hey, they're releasing so many prisoners based on COVID-19. Now, there was not a defined, criteria as to why and who they were going to release. What we were told is that if you didn't have any violent history, then right. Those are probably going to be some of the ones that were going to be first on the list. But that's not true because there were still so many there that I'm pretty sure that are in right now that did not have violent history. But sometimes they'll release some people so they can release some that they really want to release because Yeah, yeah. So it's like it's almost like it's a trade-off. If they are releasing some of us, it's definitely not because they see the humanity in doing it. There's some other motive as to why they really want to do it, but they got to make it seem like there's a one for one. So I get it. That's the tough situation that we're in, because a lot of people are looking at Biden and they're saying, look, a lot of people are looking at his running mate, Kamala Harris.
Right.
They're saying that, hey, she arrested several African American men, but I mean, it's almost like, do you want this devil, or do you want, and that's what we're in, because some people not pleased with either one of them, to be honest.
But think about this too. It's not so much as that. Then she still fought the people. She still fought the people who had action to get free. She wanted to go back and pick them up and lock them back up. Now I agree with you because I fight for these guys every day in the federal system, to where they're picking and choosing who they want to let go, because initially they didn't put out a standard for the criteria, but they said people with underlying conditions. I know people who've been in the hospital 4 or 5 times, and about to die, but they won't release them. But here you
Absolutely.
go release Michael Cohen and so many other political figures that they don't even put their names in the paper. I got a whole roster of them that they let them go. And the thing is, the ones that the political ones that they're releasing are not coming home on house arrest. The other ones who coming home on COVID-19 are coming home on house arrest.
Absolutely.
So there's a big thing is, and another thing is, in no way am I advocating for Trump. I'm just saying, I just think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is the lesser of the two evils, because what the Trump administration does, it empowers the right wing to come out as if they had a voice. These alt-right groups that were hitting, they're coming out now with a stronger voice. They're being bold and brash in their approach to us now. They're making it known that, okay, we don't like this particular, these particular people. So I think that's the thing that people have to keep in mind. That I think that he's the lesser of the two evil. So I don't know.
I understand. I definitely understand. And it's like, that's why I just think, where we have to turn the corner first is when we have to look at overall humanity. That is the first thing, because if you're not looking at overall humanity, you're not gonna visit anything with what's fair with a sentence, or who should be given clemency, when you're not even looking at humanity. That's what I think the first thing that we've got to be able to address, the equality with that, and trust me, I think Biden and Harris, I'm pretty sure some things are probably eating their conscience, but what's got to happen is that if it comes through for them, they got to step up to the mic. I think pressure has to be applied to them to get them to stand up to the mic, not hey, because if you're going to get in on our backs, then you need to be there. You need to be there when it goes down, for the long haul. So
Definitely. And we need to
Well,
push them.
guys, I'm sorry, Sonia, you go ahead.
That's okay. No, I was just commenting on the governor. I was just saying that, we need to just stay on their backs, because if we don't, they're just going to go and do whatever they want. We need to just keep on them and make sure they do what they say they're going to do.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Well, guys, I think it's just about time to wrap this up for the evening.
Oh, no.
Sorry, James.
Having so much fun.
I thought you were
it.
asleep. I thought you were sleeping, James.
Oh, I'm listening. I just come in when I have something to say, or if I want to say something. Otherwise, I just listen.
Well, I tell you, I would love to have another panel. If you guys would like to join me in another panel, I think it would be amazing.
Sure,
We
absolutely.
can brainstorm, think about topics that we want. I think one that would be great is how to get the word out to people that need to hear the word that can make a difference. Another would be things that there is an organization called Bridges to Life. I don't know if
I've
any of you
heard
are
of them.
familiar.
I don't know too much about them, but I've heard that name before.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've heard that name too.
Oh, Bridges to Life. It's an amazing what they do. They pair people that have been victimized with those incarcerated, and they go in and they speak in the prisons to these people. I'm actually planning to do that myself to bring about change and encourage forgiveness and growth and all that. So, you know, I know that the time might be a conflict because there's another great panel discussion going on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. So if we could perhaps come up with a different time, it could be earlier on Sundays, or it could be, you know, Saturday or something, or even throughout the week. You know, maybe that would be good so that we can all work together and not conflict with one another. But so let's go ahead and close the meeting. I want to thank all of you for being part of this. It was the very first, you know, live panel discussion I've done through Factually Innocent. I have put all of the links for everyone. Maurice, I don't have yours on there yet, but before I post it to Facebook as a recording, I will do so.
Okay. Y'all
So
be
does
blessed,
anybody
man.
have any closing comments?
So happy that we have time together.
It's a wonderful panel, man. Sonya, you take care.
You too, Maurice. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Y'all take care and stay in touch.
Him John, but I call him Boosie. So Boosie will be.
You wanted to say that so
She's really cut out of the bag out here. Huh?
Yo, Bootsy.
I'm gonna just share one little memory about that name. We were teenagers, and of course, my brother is a year older than me, so we've always called him Boosie. I never knew his real name. So when people would call, one person call the house, and mind you, my father's name is John too. So they had one day I answered the phone and some girl called and asked for John. I said, John, ain't no John live here. And I hung up the phone on her. So Boosie walks in the door and I'm like, oh my God. I'm so sorry. He's like, what you did now? I said, somebody called here asking for John. I don't know no John. So you better tell them to ask for Boosie because that's all I know. So, but lo and behold, they started asking for Boosie.
Yes.
Now y'all know his nickname.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Aren't you happy now, John?
It's Boosie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He'll share with me your information. He said he has it, so we'll stay in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, please. I got Governor Henderson. I have your information. So.
Okay, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And help somebody. That's my word. Is to reach out and help somebody in need. I'm launching my free grass cutting job starting tomorrow from a nonprofit. We cutting senior citizens, disabled vets, and single parent homes. That you know, we're trying to take the burden off them and
Good deal,
going
John.
out. That's what,
Good deal.
that's
Absolutely.
help. Help and serve.
I threw in there the single parents because we don't need to work with parents. I was like, whoa, hold up now.
Uh-huh.
We need it the most. Yeah, that would be good. I see DJ left. He had to leave us.
He did. He had to leave, but you know, any of you guys can message me at any time. If you don't have one another's contacts, I can get them for you.
And Mr. Roger, thank you too for your story as well.
Yes,
Appreciate
Mr. Rogers.
that. He's on mute, so I don't know if he is there talking or not, but.
Are you there, Roger?
He may be off, Sandy, I think maybe.
I think so. I think so. Well, it was a pleasure to have all of you guys,
It was. Thanks,
honestly.
Sandy. Thanks
What
so
a
much.
lovely evening.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Keep
Be
up the
safe.
good work, Governor.
Thank you so much, James.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. Have a
Bye-bye.
good one. Bye-bye.
Take care.